The Center for Unhindered Living presents Plus Size Polyamory with Judy McMath. Episode 12, where our motto is, don't follow the crowd, follow your heart. Hey guys, welcome back to our show, and thanks for listening today. This is episode 12, Natural Remedies for Low Hormones. If you remember in our last episode, we talked with Dr. Allison Fry about medical treatments for low hormones. During the episode, I asked Dr. Fry about natural or over-the-counter remedies for low hormones. Her response was, if you know someone who's getting a good result with a product, you could certainly give it a try. So we're going to talk about some of those natural products today. But first, I'd like to ask you to consider to become a patron of our show. If you found something of value in our work, you can pledge as little as $1 a month and get access to some neat patron benefits. Just click on the Become a Patron button at the top of our podcast website page, or go to patron.podbean.com/pspolyamory, and thanks for your support. I want to remind everyone that what we're discussing today does not constitute medical advice, and that you should consult your personal health care provider about anything to do with your health and wellness. The first thing we need to discuss is, why do our hormones naturally start to decline with age? What is happening in the body to cause the body to cut back on the production of hormones? The most obvious cause that comes to my mind is that the building blocks that the body uses to make hormones must be no longer present in sufficient quantities to support manufacturing the right amount of hormones. And what is one of the most important building blocks of hormones? You got it, cholesterol. As we get older, doctors start harping at us about cholesterol, wanting us to eat a low-fat diet and take a statin drug. Not only is the cell membrane of every single cell in your body composed of cholesterol, but without cholesterol, your body cannot make hormones. According to the Harvard Health Publishing, your body makes 80% of the cholesterol that it needs, but the other 20% must come from your diet. And what have doctors been trying to get us to cut back on for the last 40 years? You got it, cholesterol. Doctors have told us that saturated fat and cholesterol are the culprits in heart disease, which we now know to be untrue. In fact, in June 2020, the American Academy of Cardiologists published in their prestigious medical journal a paper, a state-of-the-art review of the last 40 years of research, and concluded that saturated fat actually does not cause heart disease. It never has. For years, the low-fat diet has been touted as the healthiest diet, while actually all this diet has done is deprive our bodies of a vitally needed nutrient. In fact, the research actually shows that hyperinsulinemia, a condition caused by a high carbohydrate diet, is actually the cause of heart disease. But that's the subject of another episode. Suffice it to say, the low-fat diet is not your friend. Not when it comes to weight loss, and not when it comes to hormones. Now, you know that this podcast is dedicated to helping plus-size people feel good about themselves, accept and celebrate their bodies, no matter how they find themselves. And that has not changed. I would never suggest to you that you need to go on a diet to get skinnier and lose weight and look better, because I think you look fine the way you are. But I would suggest being healthier. I myself follow the ketogenic lifestyle simply because, as a type 2 diabetic, it's the only diet that has controlled my blood sugar and improved my health. My feelings about weight are this. If your body is healthy, it will naturally settle at a weight that is healthiest for you. This weight may not agree with the height and weight charts that you see at your doctor's office, but it will settle at a weight that's healthiest for you. So losing weight should never be the focus, but getting healthier should. If you've checked your fasting insulin or C-peptide, and neither of these is elevated, then you needn't worry about what you eat. But if either of these is elevated, you are on your way to massive inflammatory conditions in your body, which can manifest as heart disease, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune conditions, and many other conditions. And it can impair your production of hormones as well. Now, when you go to your doctor, he will usually check your blood glucose to see if you're diabetic. And usually it will say it's normal. But if he doesn't check the fasting insulin and the C-peptide test, there's no way for him to know whether your pancreas is working overtime to produce that insulin to keep your blood sugar normal. So you can have a blood sugar that's normal, but if your C-peptide and your fasting insulin are elevated, that shows that your pancreas is having to work too hard to keep your blood sugar normal, and that eventually it will get to the point where it can no longer produce enough insulin to keep your blood sugar normal, and then your blood sugar will start to rise. Now, you can find out that that's the road you're on if you can get your doctor to check the fasting insulin and C-peptide at the same time that he checks the blood glucose and the A1C. And a lot of doctors will say it's not necessary and they don't want to do it. But just ask your doctor to humor you and do the test anyway. And if the fasting insulin and the C-peptide are even a little bit elevated, that shows you that you're on your way to one of those inflammatory conditions. And the only way to prevent that is to eat a lower carbohydrate diet, because that's the only thing that can lower your fasting insulin levels. So it's the inflammation that's the problem, not the weight. But when you remove the sources of inflammation and your body heals, very often your weight does come down. But even if it doesn't, you'll still be healthier and you'll maximize your body's ability to make hormones. Now, your pituitary gland tells your body to make hormones, and estrogen is made from testosterone. But fat cells excrete an enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase's its job in your body is to make this conversion. Aromatase converts testosterone to estrogen. So the more fat cells you have, the more your body converts testosterone to estrogen. Good news for women, bad news for men. The more fat cells a man has, the more his testosterone falls. This isn't necessarily a bad thing for women unless you're one of those people who has a family history of breast cancer. In that case, it could predispose you to the disease. Suffice it to say, the diet that maximizes the body's ability to make hormones is a high-fat, moderate-protein, low-carbohydrate diet that's full of healthy animal fats and low in industrial seed oils, like canola oil, soybean oil, and corn oil. Any oil squeezed out of a seed is highly inflammatory and will only make your body sicker. So animal fats are the way to go. My diet consists of a lot of fatty meat, eggs, cheese, butter, and a few non-starchy vegetables. Occasionally maybe a few nuts. But no grains, no starchy vegetables, fruits, or sugars. If you aren't diabetic and don't have high fasting insulin levels, you might get away with eating a few strawberries or blueberries. But the rest of the fruits produce a high insulin spike, which leads to inflammation. If you think about it, our hunter-gatherer ancestors ate fruit only in season, which meant basically about once a year when the fruit was right on the trees. You had to eat it right when it was ripe because soon after it would start dropping off the trees and rotting. There was no refrigeration and no grocery stores, so fruit was pretty much a once-a-year treat. Now, if you want to gorge yourself on fruit once a year, that would be ancestrally appropriate. One insulin spike a year, your body can handle that. But spiking every day, not healthy. So, enough about diet. We can do a whole episode on keto in the future if you want me to. But let's go on to the other natural substances that might help you. Number 1 is ashwagandha. It's an evergreen shrub from the nightshade family. It can help your body deal with stress and balance the stress hormones, including cortisol. Now, why do we care about cortisol? Because having elevated levels of cortisol chronically can affect your body's production of other hormones. You definitely need cortisol to get through the stressful times, but living in a state of chronic stress can be very hard on your hormones. So reducing sources of stress is the number one thing you can do. One 2019 study of 60 adults who took 125 to 300 milligrams of ashwagandha root extract twice daily for 8 weeks resulted in less stress, better sleep, and lowered blood cortisol levels compared with a placebo group. A similarly conducted 2012 study observed a similar result. Number 2 is black cohosh. Black cohosh acts as a phytoestrogen. In a few studies, they found black cohosh to relieve symptoms of menopause more effectively than a placebo or no treatment at all. It can help with hot flashes and fertility in some women. It can improve sleep and help with PMS, anxiety, and depression associated with menopause. Now keep in mind that when I use the word menopause, this is simply a low hormone condition, and your hormones can be low and out of balance at any age, not just menopause. For most uses, 20 milligrams daily seems to be effective. Number 3 is chasteberry. Another name for chasteberry is Vitex. Chasteberry might work as a hormone balancer by helping balance the hormone prolactin. By lowering how much prolactin is in the blood, this could help treat symptoms of PMS. To ease difficult and painful menstruation, to prevent premenstrual syndromes, to treat breast pain, and to prevent menopausal symptoms. These are some of the advantages of chasteberry. Now, contraindications are this. If you're taking drugs that are substrates of the cytochrome P450 enzyme, then you should not take chasteberry. Now, you would know better than me if you're taking a drug like that. There's a big long list of those, which I'm not an expert on that. So you would have to look up and see if any of the drugs that you're using are substrates of the cytochrome P450 enzyme. It's also contraindicated if you're taking medicines to treat serious mental and emotional disorders, such as, and now I know I'm going to butcher these names, but chlorpromazine, haloperidol, and prochlorperazine. If you're taking any of those, then chasteberry might interfere with the action of those drugs, or it might enhance their side effects. If you're taking medicines for Parkinson's disease, then you should not take chasteberry. If you're taking any kind of hormonal medications already, such as oral contraceptives, birth control, chasteberry might interfere with their effectiveness. And if you're pregnant and nursing, you definitely would not want to take chasteberry because you need prolactin in your system when you're breastfeeding. And so you don't want anything that's going to lower your prolactin level if you're breastfeeding. So don't take chasteberry. The dosages would be, for the crude herb extract, 20 to 240 milligrams. So I would start at 20 and see if you get a result that you like, and if not, then increase it slowly to a maximum of 240 milligrams per day. For the fluid extract, you could take 40 drops per day. For the dried fruit extract, you could take 1.6 to 3 milligrams per day. And for a tincture, you could take 35 to 45 drops per day. But never at any time take more than 1,800 milligrams per day. The fourth substance we're going to talk about is Dongquai. If you have migraines associated with hormones, this supplement can be very helpful. It can also treat menstrual cramps and hot flashes. It's considered to be an additive coagulant, so it can be a blood thinner. You should not use it with any other blood thinning drugs, or aspirin, or any antiplatelet therapy, or with lisinopril. Now, the powdered herb is available in capsules, and in one study, people took 500 to 600 milligram tablets up to 6 times per day. And if you're using the tincture, a 1 to 5 tincture, 40 to 80 drops is the range that you should use. Now, at the bottom of the podcast page in the description box, I will put a link to all these studies and articles that I used to give you this information. I'll also be putting a link, the very last link in this list will be on raising testosterone naturally, and this is for men. And this is a video by Dr. Ken Berry, family physician, and he's going to give you some tips on how to naturally raise your testosterone without drugs. So I hope you'll go and look at that. In fact, Dr. Ken Berry has several hundred videos on different subjects on the internet, and I would suggest to you that it would always be a good use of your time to go and look at any of his videos on YouTube because they can be very helpful. And one other thing about Dr. Berry is he always does his research. He thoroughly researches everything he tells us, and he gives us the studies that we can read for ourselves. Visit the Center for Unhindered Living's blog at unhindered-living.com. Join our Facebook page at facebook.com/unhinderedliving. Have something to say about this? Leave a comment. Join the discussion. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. Currently, episodes of this podcast can be found on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Amazon Music, and Radio Public, as well as on our YouTube channel. I'll also mention that right now we're having a contest for about the next month. We'll be giving away a $50 Amazon.com gift card, and to enter the drawing for this, you simply need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or be a follower of this podcast, or be a follower of our blog. And then if you follow all three, you'll get 3 chances to win. Once again, thanks for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.